Hello, welcome to a new tutorial presented by the SA Charles AB. In this tutorial, we are going to see the nervous supply to the head. To visualize the nervous supply to the head, we need to add up the arterial structures. We need to add up the nervous structures. So we add up again. So we have these different nerves which are present inside the head. So at first we are going to use some low numbers. Now to visualize now inside the cranial fossa, we are going to cut all through here. So let's start cutting. So I cut first the frontal bone, and then we continue cutting the parietal bone. Then we cut the occipital bone. Now, since you have cut as such, you can cut the other portion here. All this portion of the parietal bone as such. So now, when cutting, we see the brain as the main structure above here. So let's remove and we visualize inside. So this is the brain, the main structure, but we are not going to visualize the brain now. We are going to visualize the brain in the latter tutorial. So let's continue cutting at this portion. We remove this. So we remove this, all this component. So this is the brain here. So the next thing we do now is to stop cutting and then go on this other part. So now the brain. So this is the brain. We are going to remove the brain in order to visualize the internal portion. So remove the brain in order to visualize the internal portion. So hide. In order to visualize the internal portion, we remove all this. Hide. Now we have removed all this, but now we can still see this portion of the brain, which are the ventricles. So these are the lateral ventricles of the brain, we can still see, but we are going to remove it. Hide. We come here, we still remove. Hide. We come here, this is the Corpus Callosum, and we still remove it. We come and remove on the other side. So we have now this now is the putamen. These are the different nuclei which are involved in the motion of the which are involved in the basal ganglia. So we are not involved with that now, so we are going to remove all of them. So let's remove all the structures. Yeah. So upon removing all the structures, we realize the following. So we can see the different nerves which are involved. Now we name this nerve according in descending order. Let's see. So when you visualize this, you can name the nerve from top to bottom. So the cranial nerves are, we have the first cranial nerve is olfactory nerve. The olfactory nerve is normally supposed to be here. And the olfactory nerve passes in the its olfactory fibers passing into the into the cribriform foraminus here, and its bulb is lying on the cribriform plate, and then it gives to the frontal nasal part of the frontal lobe. So it gives the branch to the frontal nasal part of the frontal lobe. That's the olfactory nerve which is done. The next nerve to be involved with is the optic nerve. The optic nerve starts at the level of the eye, then enters and passes through the optic chiasm, then enters and passes through the optic canal. In the optic canal, is going to do a chiasma here. It's going to interchange position here. So optic nerve, the optic nerve is going to interchange position here. Now, as it interchange position, is going to go and enter a ganglion inside the head called the geniculate ganglion. and that geniculate ganglion is different from the ganglion of the fascia nerve. It's going to enter the ganglion in the parietal lobe called the geniculate ganglion, in the temporal lobe called the geniculate ganglion, and is going to have a terminal portion in the occipital lobe. So this is for the optic nerve. Now, going again in descending order, after the optic nerve, let's enter much more and see this one here is the optic nerve. After the optic nerve, we have this nerve here. We have the oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve is a third nerve here. So oculomotor nerve, you see that it's going to enter the eye via the superior orbital fissure and present itself here into the eye, where it's going to have its action on the other muscles which are not the lateral rectus and the superior oblique. So all the other muscles which are not lateral rectus and superior oblique are going to be acted upon by the oculomotor nerve. So again, close to oculomotor nerve, you have these two other nerves, the trochlear and the abducens nerve. So here is so when we come closer, we find this nerve. This nerve here is the trochlear nerve, and the trochlear nerve is the fourth cranial nerve. The fourth cranial nerve acts on the superior oblique. Now we need to know that the superior oblique is located at this portion. Now we have superior oblique and we have inferior oblique. The superior oblique passes, it starts from here and passes all around the trochlea, which is found here. This is why a contraction, normally superior oblique is found here. The superior oblique is found on this location. So, and it passes all around here. So when the superior oblique, it causes the eye to move in this way. We are going to visualize that in the section on eye. So let's visualize again inside the skull. So here is the trochlear nerve. After the trochlear nerve, you have the abducens nerve, which is again lower. So this is the abducens nerve. But before the abducens nerve is cranial nerve 6. Before the abducens nerve, you have the trigeminal nerve here. This is a trigeminal nerve. And the trigeminal nerve is going to have this ganglion close to the ciliary system. This is the trigeminal ganglion. This ganglion here is a trigeminal ganglion. Now, so from the name, see trigeminal ganglion. The trigeminal ganglion is going to divide into three main parts. We have this part here. So we have this part here is the ophthalmic part of the trigeminal nerve. This part here is the maxillary part of trigeminal nerve, and this part here is the mandibular part. The ophthalmic passes in the superior orbital fissure to find itself in the eye. The maxillary part passes in the foramen rotundum, and the mandibular part passes in the foramen ovale. So these are the three main parts of the three main nerves which are involved here. After it, we have the fascial nerve and the vestibulocochlear nerve, which are entangled at this position. Here is the fascial nerve, and again close to it is the vestibulocochlear nerve. So they are entangled here, and they are going to pass into the internal ear via the internal acoustic meatus. The internal acoustic meatus here. They are going to present themselves here. So they are going to enter. They are going to pass into the internal ear. So be present here. So now, so if I fade this region, I make sure that I should not be sure, don't see very well. I fade it. You see that we have, if I touch again on the, so let's enter and visualize much more. You see that this nerve are the trigeminal nerve. So it will enter now in this portion here. So this portion here is the internal ear. So it's going to supply the different parts. The vestibulocochlear nerve is the one which is going to take the sound from the spiral ganglion. The spiral ganglion is a ganglion of the vestibulocochlear nerve, because we initially said that all the sensory nerves have ganglion outside the central nervous system, and the ganglion for the vestibulocochlear nerve is the spiral ganglion, and the spiral ganglion is used to remove sound from the different body otolith cells of the ear. So that's it. The next portion again, after the vestibulocochlear nerve and the fascial nerve, below again we have the glossopharyngeal nerve. So let's enter and visualize again. This nerve here is the glossopharyngeal nerve. So exactly at this position is the glossopharyngeal nerve, and we realize that the glossopharyngeal nerve comes out of the cranial fossa via this canal here, and this canal is called the jugular foramen. So let's come back and replace back we remove the fade and make sure that, so we see that here is the jugular foramen, and the vestibulocochlear nerve passes into the jugular foramen to present itself out. So we have this one here, it passes all through. This is the accessory nerve already. This is the glossopharyngeal nerve, so glossopharyngeal nerve passes here. So after the glossopharyngeal nerve, the next nerve which comes is the vagus nerve. So here is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is going to descend as such and present and pass through the jugular foramen. Again, the next nerve which is going to pass, you have here the cranial accessory nerve, and you have the spinal accessory nerve. The cranial and spinal accessory nerve are the two accessory nerves. The spinal accessory nerve starts from the spinal cord, as you can see from here. You see it starts from here and it goes up. So you see that you have two accessory nerves. We have this accessory nerve and we have this accessory nerve. This is the spinal accessory nerve, which is the cranial accessory nerve, which originates from the brain, and this is the spinal accessory nerve, which will descend and originate from the spinal cord. So you see that the spinal accessory nerve starts and goes upward. It goes upward through the foramen magnum and then comes down and bind with the vagus nerve, and is going to be distributed with it. So these are the different nerves that are involved. So we have seen all the nerves. The last nerve to be seen is going to be the hypoglossal nerve, and this is the hypoglossal nerve here. The hypoglossal nerve is the one which is going to supply the tongue. So let's visualize one nerve with the different causes. So these are all nerves which are be seen. So let's take one nerve and visualize our causes. So we have the optic nerve. So we can pass on to the olfactory nerve. So the olfactory nerve, we need to know that we have the olfactory nerve here at the level of the eye. So this is the olfactory nerve with this particular connective tissue sheet here. So the olfactory nerve is going to have the ophthalmic part of the optic nerve is going to have different divisions. So if I click here, I'm going to see optic nerve. So the optic nerve is the one which is going to supply all through the eye here. So this is the origin of the optic nerve, and this is where the optic nerve ends. So this is all through the portion that optic nerve is going to move. So after visualizing the optic nerve, we now visualize the next nerve. So the next nerve to pass on to visualize here, the olfactory nerve was forgotten, so this is an error of the program. So you have the optic nerve here. The optic nerve is going to bind at this portion here, so you realize that it's going to give its branches which are going to move at this portion here. So when you visualize very well, it's going to enter at this two portion here. So this is where the optic chiasm occur. But now there's supposed to be an error because optic chiasm is at this level. So what they did on this program is to put the optic chiasm instead at this position. So this is not quite true and alright, but it may seem that some people have optic chiasm at this position, not. But now you need to know that at this other position there exists the geniculate ganglion, and the optic nerve is going to end up to the occipital lobe. Yeah. Now the next nerve to pass on with, the next nerve to visualize will be, after the optic nerve, the third nerve is the oculomotor nerve. So we are going to visualize now the oculomotor nerve. So now this nerve is the oculomotor nerve. The oculomotor nerve is passing as such. So let's see the track of oculomotor nerve. So there's no track of oculomotor nerve. We isolate the oculomotor nerve. So the oculomotor nerve is as such. So what do we realize? We realize that oculomotor nerve comes here. See, oculomotor nerve starts from the level, it starts from this level here and enters into the superior orbital fissure. As it enters the superior orbital fissure, it's going to come out at the level of the eye, A level of oculomotor nerve split into two main parts. It's come out the level of optic cavity split into two main parts. We have the superior part and we have the inferior part. The superior part is going to give a branch called the levator to the levator palpebrae superioris. So we have this part here to the levator palpebrae superioris, and we have this other part here. Now, these are the two main parts which are involved. Here we have the inferior part, which are going to be given to the inferior rectus and all other muscles. We said initially that the oculomotor nerve is going to supply all the other muscles which are not lateral rectus and superior oblique. So the muscles that is of the eye which are supplied by the oculomotor nerve are number one. We have the inferior rectus, we have the medial rectus, we have the inferior oblique. So these are the main muscles. And number four, we have another one, the inferior oblique. So these are the four muscles which are involved in the oculomotor nerve supply. Now, we initially said that on the parasympathetic system, oculomotor nerve received from the edingavesophageal nuclei. So as it's going to come, it's going to have also fibers of edingavesophageal nuclei. So this is why it's going to contain also the ciliary ganglion at one portion here, but the ciliary ganglion will be seen mostly at the level of the trigeminal nerve, because the trigeminal nerve is a good hitchhiker. A trigeminal nerve is going to hitchhike the fiber of the parasympathetic, which is involved with the formation of the ciliary ganglion, and it's going to form that fiber of the parasympathetic of the trigeminal, which is hitchhiking the parasympathetic fiber to the ciliary ganglion, is going to be called the long ciliary nerve and the short ciliary nerve. These are the ones which are involved. The short ciliary nerve and long ciliary nerve are involved with the parasympathetic and sympathetic hitchhike of the fibers to the eye, to the cornea and the iris. So we have this. So now the next nerve we have to visualize. So we go back. So we take the next nerve. After the oculomotor nerve, we have the trochlear nerve. We go forth, the trochlear nerve. Trochlear nerve is the next nerve. You see that trochlear nerve originates from this position here of the pons, posteriorly as such. So we have the trochlear nerve. Now, if we isolate the trochlear nerve, we have this. So the trochlear nerve comes, you see that it comes on this position here, so on the medial position and here. So the trochlear nerve is going to supply to the superior oblique. So the superior oblique is located here and the inferior oblique is located here. The superior rectus is located here and inferior rectus is located here. So the trochlear nerve supplies the superior oblique at this portion, and when the superior oblique contracts, it's going to cause a downward movement as such. So now we have this trochlear nerve. The next nerve we are going to visualize will be the abducent nerve, this one here. So this is the abducent nerve, and we isolate it. So we realize that the abducent nerve is going to, as we said out in our initial formula RR6, the abducent nerve is going to supply the lateral rectus. So it's going to come as such and going to end up here. So abducent nerve is going to supply the lateral rectus, enters in a superior and is going to end up at this position. So abducent nerve. After abducent nerve, we pass to the next muscle. We have the trigeminal. So abducent nerve is a cranial nerve 6, but the trigeminal nerve is cranial nerve 5. Now, trigeminal nerve is one of the most prominent nerve with the trigeminal ganglion, and we said that the reason for its trigeminal ganglion is because of its sensory portion. And the trigeminal nerve is a very good hitchhiker of all the parasympathetic and sympathetic fibers in the head. So when I click here, I have the trigeminal nerve here, and I will try to isolate it. So when you try isolate trigeminal nerve, you have this. We split into three bulks. We have here the ophthalmic portion. This is the ophthalmic portion. Here is the maxillary portion. Here is the mandibular portion. Now, let's try to visualize the ophthalmic portion. The ophthalmic portion, we isolate it. We realize that the ophthalmic portion enter the superior oblique. Now, ophthalmic portion is going to divide into three main parts. It's going to give one frontal nerve here. It's going to give a lateral part here, which is going to be called the nasociliary, It's going to give the lateral part here, which is going to be called the nasociliary, and it's going to give a major part nasociliary here, and lateral part called the lateral part is going to be called the lacrimal nerve. Now the ophthalmic part is going to form the two main portions called the supraorbital nerve and the supratrochlear nerve, as you are going to see, and the lateral part is going to form it's going to give branches to the anterior and posterior ethmoidal nerves. So we are going to have it, and it's also going to come out and supply sensation to the upper portion of the nose here. So this is why ophthalmic portion is going to supply to all this portion of the head here. Now you have the lacrimal portion, which is going to give to the lacrimal gland, and we said initially that in order for you to have stimulation of lacrimal nerve, you need to have a parasympathetic supply, and the parasympathetic supply does not come originally from the trigeminal nerve. The parasympathetic supply which stimulates the lacrimal gland there is originally coming from the facial nerve. So that facial nerve is going to take sensation from the superior salivatory nuclei, and is going to pass via the greater petrosal nerve. The greater petrosal nerve is going to be hitchhiked to form the sphenoparietal ganglion, and it's going to end up at this position here. So this is where it's going to end. So let's continue. Now visualizing the other portions, we have this. This is the other portion of the ophthalmic nerve. Ophthalmic nerve has a major branch of the supraorbital nerve. So you have the medial branch. This is the lateral branch of supraorbital. This is the superior oblique muscle. This is the superior oblique nerve. Supratrochlear nerve here. Supratrochlear nerve. Now after that, you have this other portion which is medial to it's called the nasociliary nerve. It still comes from the ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. The nasociliary nerve is going to continue down here. It's going to continue down and give this branch here. So it's going to give this branch here called the infratrochlear nerve. So you have the supratrochlear nerve here, and you have the infratrochlear nerve which come from the nasociliary. It's going to give here. So these are the branches which are given by the nasociliary. Now if I fade and I see through this, you have the different nerves which can be seen there, and those different nerves which are seen there are the olfactory nerve. So here you see that we cannot see the olfactory nerve, but when you fade through the ethmoid bone, you can see the olfactory nerves here as such. Normally the olfactory bulb is supposed to lie here, but you see the olfactory nerve here. Now we continue by visualizing again inside the head. Now the next nerve on the lateral side here is going to be the lacrimal nerve. So if you enter very well, you have this nerve here which is supplying the lacrimal gland. Is going to be this particular nerve here supplying the lacrimal gland. Is going to be the lacrimal nerve, this particular nerve here. So coming, it's not here. So this nerve here is the lacrimal nerve supplying the lacrimal gland. Now after having the lacrimal nerve, so you see that these are all the divisions of the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve. Now you can pass to the next one, which is the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. Maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve is located here. This is the maxillary division of trigeminal nerve. You can isolate it to find how it moves. So it's going to pass through the foramen rotundum and it's going to end still at the level of the eye in order to move out at this level and supply this portion. So this is the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve, how it's going to cause. So let's continue. Now inside the foramen rotundum, so this is the trigeminal nerve. So this is the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve here, which passes through the foramen rotundum. So as it passes through the foramen rotundum, it's going to give these branches here. So you have the zygomatic nerve, it's going to pass laterally as such here. So the foramen rotundum is going to give the zygomatic nerve, which is going to pass laterally and go to supply the scalp with the face. Now we also have this other one here, other branch here, which is going to be found here at this portion. So here is the maxillary nerve. At the anterior part of the maxillary nerve here, you have the infraorbital nerve, and that infraorbital nerve is going to pass through the infraorbital foramen to present itself. This is the infraorbital foramen here to present itself on the face. So this is for maxillary nerve. Now internally, the maxillary nerve also gives some branches. So we have the maxillary nerve here. After having the maxillary nerve, we know that it's going to give an anterior branch here. The anterior branch is going to be the infraorbital nerve here. Now the infraorbital nerve is going to have a small branch on this side, which is going to be called the anterior superior alveolar branch of the infraorbital nerve. So this anterior superior alveolar branch is going to supply the dentition at this portion. So we can see how it supplies the dentition. So now we also have a posterior posterior supply to the dentition here at this level. So this is going to be called the posterior superior alveolar nerve. So it comes from the maxillary nerve directly internally. So you see that the maxillary nerve, we can conclude that maxillary nerve has branches here. So it's zygomaticofascial. We have the zygomaticofascial. Here we have the second one. We have the infraorbital nerve. Before infraorbital nerve come out of the infraorbital formula, we have the anterior superior alveolar nerve, and the maxillary nerve is also going to give posteriorly the posterior superior alveolar nerve. So that's over for maxillary nerve. So now after the maxillary nerve, and we need to know that for it to give all these branches, it need to pass through the pterygopalatine fossa. And the last one is going to be the mandibular nerve. The mandibular nerve, if we isolate, this is how the mandibular nerve passes. You see that it is clearly passing into the pterygopalatine fossa, as you can see as such here. So since it passes through the pterygopalatine fossa, it's going to give different branches from here. So maxillary nerve, let's start. So with the maxillary nerve, we can see this position. If you want to see the maxillary nerve, you need to open through to visualize through the mandible. So we have this. So I will hide the mandible for us to visualize. So if you hide the mandible, let's place back the mandibles, but we fade it. So this is how it's going to pass. Now we remove all these other structures which are close around here. So this is how it's going to resemble. The mandibular nerve is going to pass from this section and then it's going to descend as such here. So we see some ganglions are already present at this portion and at this portion here. The mandibular nerve descends at this portion and it is close to a ganglion called the otic ganglion. So mandibular nerve is going to be close to a ganglion called the otic ganglion, which comes from the glossopharyngeal nerve. So the branches of the mandibular ganglion are: number one, we have the dental with the alveolar branches to the inferior alveolar processes here, to inferior dentition. So you can visualize all the different branches which come from the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. You need also to know that the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve also form this oculotemporal artery, which is here, and also give the different muscles of mastication. This is why there are many fibers all through here. These fibers all through here are representing the division to the muscles of mastication. Now we have again, we need to know that the mandibular nerve hitchhikes the parasympathetic supply of the glossopharyngeal nerve via the otic ganglion, and as it hitchhikes it is going to pass to the parotid gland and by using the oculotemporal nerve. So that's for mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. The next one is going to be when we are finished with the mandibular, we are finished already with the trigeminal nerve. The next muscle, the next nerve is going to be the fascial nerve. The fascial nerve can be seen here with the vestibulocochlear. The vestibulocochlear, there is nothing very important, just that the vestibulocochlear is going to pass all through. If we fade it, we're going to see the vestibulocochlear and the fascial nerve passing together here. So this is the vestibulocochlear and the fascial nerve. All of them are passing at this position. Now this particular one here is going to be called the vestibulocochlear superiorly, and inferior, so vestibulocochlear stop here and form a spiral ganglion which is going to take information from the ear. We also have inferiorly here the facial nerve, the intermediate nerve here, and we also have the facial nerve inferiorly. So all these are going to pass all through the internal acoustic meatus. As they are going to pass all through them, you have this one. So this is a facial nerve here. So the facial nerve is going to give this particular ganglion here, and this ganglion is going to be called the geniculate ganglion. And now as the facial nerve continues its course, is going to pass outward of the body. So we see very well that the facial nerve continues and it courses inside the internal ear, as such as this yellow line shows. It courses inside the internal ear. As it courses inside the internal ear, it's going to come out of the temporal of the cranial fossa by using the stylomastoid foramen. So the stylomastoid foramen is going to be located here. It's going to come out at this position. As it comes out at that position, it's going to split now into different branches which are located here. We know that we have 5 main branches of the facial nerve. This is the first branch called the temporal branch of the facial nerve. This is the temporal branch of the facial nerve. Here is the zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. This branch here, this particular branch here is the zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. Now we have this other branch here is a buccal branch of the facial nerve. So if we come again close, we have this. So this is the buccal branch of the facial nerve. Below here, and this other one here is going to be called this one below here is going to be called the marginal mandibular branch of the facial nerve. And lastly, we are going to have another branch which is going to come down here from here. So it's going to be the digastric. This is the digastric branch of the facial nerve here. The digastric branch of the facial nerve, which goes and supply the digastric muscle. The posterior belly of the digastric muscle. You need to know that anterior belly of the digastric muscle is supplied by the trigeminal nerve, and posterior belly is supplied by the facial nerve. And lastly, we also have another branch which is going to be called the cervical branch of the trigeminal nerve. So these are all the branches which are involved with trigeminal nerve. So it's going to be called the cervical branch of the trigeminal nerve. So this is exactly the cervical branch. The cervical branch can branch. You see that it branches from the marginal mandibula. We have the cervical branch of trigeminal nerve, and that cervical branch of trigeminal nerve is there to supply the motor to the other muscles which are found in the neck. Now, after visualizing the facial nerve and the vestibulocochlear nerve, we need again to put in mind that the facial nerve has sensory component, and that sensory component is the spatial sensory to the tongue. It has one spatial sensory to the tongue. And the last portion is that it also consists of a parasympathetic supply. The parasympathetic supply of facial nerve comes from the superior salivatory nucleus, as we already said in the latter tutorial. That superior salivatory nucleus is located in the medulla. Now we come here, we see that superior salivatory nucleus, if we fade the mandible, we hide the mandible this time out, we see that there are certain ganglions which are present at this location. This particular ganglion here is going to be called the submandibular ganglion. So we have the submandibular ganglion on this side, and this one is the other submandibular ganglion on the other side. So now, this left submandibular ganglion, we see that is going to be one of the ganglion which are formed due to the parasympathetic fiber of the facial nerve. And now to arrive at this portion, we need to know that the facial nerve the trigeminal nerve is one of the most great hitchhiker. What the meaning of hitchhiker is that it transports most of the parasympathetic fibers all through the head. So when the facial nerve starts to transport it with the chorda tympani, it starts to transport the parasympathetic fiber to the submandibular ganglion via the chorda tympani. As it transports it with the chorda tympani, so you can see already these fibers here. So this is the inferior alveolar nerve of the one. So this particular fiber here is going to be the lingual nerve. So the lingual nerve we see from here is a branch of the mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. So you see that it has hitchhiked the submandibular ganglion. It has hitchhiked the submandibular ganglion from another fiber called the chorda tympani. So it's from the chorda tympani that it has hitchhiked this particular fiber. So, and the chorda tympani is used by the facial nerve to remove taste from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, and the lingual nerve is used to remove general sensation from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. Again, we need to know again that the facial nerve also have another ganglion inside the pterygopalatine fossa here, and this is called the pterygopalatine ganglion. So this the fiber which transmits to the pterygopalatine ganglion here is a greater petrosal nerve. The greater petrosal nerve than the fiber which transmit to the pterygopalatine ganglion, and the greater petrosal nerve is going to have certain fibers. This particular fiber here, this small fiber here. So if I enter again, it's much more. So you have a small particular fiber here which is going to come out. It's the orbital branch of the pterygopalatine ganglion, and this orbital branch of the pterygopalatine. So when the fiber, the greater petrosal nerve comes, it's going to form this hitchhiker. So the here is going to be the greater petrosal nerve. So you have nerves of the pterygoid canal. The greater petrosal nerve comes inside. Then it's going to give fiber out. The fiber out are going to be hitchhiked by the lacrimal branch. So they are going to hitchhike by the nasociliary branch instead, the nasociliary branch of the trigeminal nerve. So the inside they are going to be hitchhiked by the nasociliary branch of the trigeminal nerve. So we are located here inside. They are going to be hitchhiked by the nasociliary branch of trigeminal nerve, and they are going to use in the control of the reflexes of accommodation and light reflexes. Now the next nerve to visualize again, after visualizing the we have the next one, which is the glossopharyngeal nerve. So let's come inside. We have this nerve here. This particular nerve here is the glossopharyngeal nerve, and the glossopharyngeal nerve, you can see it crosses the yellow line. So it crosses as such. It descends via the jugular foramen, descend down as yellow line, and it descends here. So from here we can visualize that the glossopharyngeal nerve are going to have these different branches. This branch is going to give to the lingual branch, which is posterior, or to the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, and also going to give this other branch here. So when you come closer, it is going to give also to this other branch here, the tonsillar branch. So you have the lingual branch and you have the tonsillar branch. Now the glossopharyngeal nerve also gives some branches to the neck here, and also a branch to the palate. It also gives palatine sensory and muscular supply. And we don't forget again the salpingopharyngeus, which is found as a vertical muscle of the pharynx. So now we have all these. The next nerve which is involved here is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is going to course in this direction, so it's going to move down and it's going to course all through like this. So we initially said that the main nerve which is involved with the transmission of parasympathetic for all the thorax and abdomen is going to be the vagus nerve. So you see all through the vagus nerve. So if you isolate the vagus nerve, you see that the vagus nerve originates from here and it descends all through to the thorax, and there is the thorax here, and here is the level of the abdomen. So cervical, and this is at level of thorax, so it tends at this position, all through this position here. So now that's the vagus nerve. The other nerves are the cranial accessory and the spinal accessory. The spinal accessory comes from C3 to C5, and they are used to, and the cranial accessory too, they are used in the contraction. They're supplying the sternocleidomastoid and trapezius muscle for their contraction. So the cause of the accessory nerve, so just click on the accessory nerve. So this is the isolated accessory nerve. So you see that it's going to cause all through as such. So it originates. So the origin of accessory nerve is going to be inside. You see it's inside the bone. So this is the origin of the spinal accessory nerve. Spinal accessory nerve originates here, as it originates there, it's going to move up into the head. So these are the different portions from C3 to C5 it originates. This is the cranial accessory nerve. All of them, the spinal accessory nerve is going to move up via the foramen magnum. All of them are going to bind, are going to descend now, and they are going to supply the trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid. So this is the spinal accessory nerve. The last nerve to visualize is the hypoglossal nerve. So hypoglossal nerve is located so the hypoglossal nerve could not be found. Now the next nerves that we are going to visualize now are going to be the sympathetic nerves. Now we initially said that the sympathetic nerve are coming into the head and neck due to their thoracolumbar origin. So they are going to come via the internal carotid artery. So in order to visualize the sympathetic nerves entering, I have to go to the internal carotid canal. So at this portion, you are going to have the sympathetic nerve. So here you visualize that there is the internal carotid plexus. So it's going to enter here and located primarily along the lateral side of internal carotid. It consists of sympathetic postganglionic fiber. So you see that at this portion there is going to consist of the different fibers which are sympathetic, and these fibers which are sympathetic are going to enter into the cranial cavity and going to continue here. They are going to continue in the eye via the use of the ophthalmic artery, via the use of ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. They are going to continue in the nasal cavity via the use of the maxillary division of trigeminal nerve, and they are going to continue in the buccal cavity via the use of the mandibular. So it's located at this position exactly here. It's going to have ophthalmic part, it's going to have a maxillary part, and it's going to have a mandibular part, the different position. So from here we've seen a general introduction of all the nerves which are found in the head. So we say thanks for your kind attention. Don't forget to like and subscribe for Science Dream Makers. Thank you.